Hello everyone and welcome to the Fishhead Creations podcast, where I pull out one of my interesting knitting projects every time and talk you through the details. Well, welcome to my festive Christmassy decorated living room. I will be back on the sofa next time and in my usual spot, but I'm so happy to have all my Christmas decorations up. I wanted to share some of them with you. So yeah, this is my beloved Christmas tree. I put it up every year. It's just a fabric sold by the yard, made by IKEA years ago, and I just love it. I kind of pushed it this year. You can see some of my ornaments. Most are hand-knit little Santa hats. One is a store-bought one up here, and then they must be out of frame, I'm sure, but there are stars made from twigs further up. And last year I was allowed to have the main star at the top of the tree, and 3 of those tiny hand-knit Santa hats. And whenever I tried to put up anything else, anything more, the cats would rip it down and just leave 3 of those hats. So I now have 7 ornaments and the star at the top, so I might be pushing it. But yeah, the one right behind me, this one here, is the one lowest down. And look, he has to jump to get to it. So far he has tried once and he has not managed to rip it down, so there's hope. There's hope. And yeah, we have some actual sunlight outside, so the light might be changing, but I also hope it's not as yellow as it used to be the last few episodes. We'll just go with it. We'll just make do. Yeah. It's weird because I'm sitting so much further up than I usually do. I have to look down to the camera instead of up. It feels strange. I will go back to my usual setup. If I'm pointing over there, that's because there's my sofa where I have podcast for the last few episodes. And I think I prefer that one. But I want it to be in front of my Christmas tree just because I love it so much. But we want to talk about knitting, do we? So here is my Skógafjall. And wait a minute. Here is the front of my Skógafjall. Oh goodness. Off to a perfect start, are we? I did have a lot of work today at work, which usually for the last few weeks has been very slow, but today, because of Black Friday and Cyber Monday and people being off over the weekend instead of working, it was quite a lot of work. And I've been writing the same sentence over and over again all day. So, yeah, bear with me. My brain is kind of mushed and yeah. I want to get this done with because I want to start watching Vlogmases. So, Skógafjall. Pattern by Diana Waller, who is Cake and Vikings on Instagram, and Pepper Tiger Knits as a designer. And you will all have heard of her because she's amazing and she does great patterns. Except I have a lot of things to say about this one. But it looks beautiful. I love how it fits. I love how it turned out in the end. The yarn, let's just get that over with. I got it at a small local yarn festival. It was just a giant cardboard box full of unlabeled skeins of yarn. It just said 100% wool and nothing else. And when I asked, she said about 300 meters per 100 grams. So round about a heavy sport weight, knit up at a worsted to Aran gauge of 18 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I think it worked really well at this gauge. So yeah, what else? This obviously, as per my preference, was knit bottom up and then joined at the underarms, standard bottom up yoke construction. That's not the issue. So let's first get to my pattern rant. Because while I love the finished design, I did have a lot of things to say about the pattern. It has several pages, because it's spread out over several pages, which is fine. But every page included at least one picture. And I don't know about you, but I do print out my patterns, especially color work charts. It's just easier to carry around a printed out chart than to always have to pull out my phone and look on it and drain the battery and everything. I just prefer to print out my patterns. What I do not prefer to print out is unnecessary pictures. So what I did was copy the text from 3 or 4 pages of this pattern that were riddled and stuffed with pictures and photographs. I copied just the text and I got it down to 1 page. So instead of printing 4 or 5 pages to get the chart and the written instructions for the sleeve construction and the stitch counts and everything, I printed 2. I printed the one with the chart, which was the only picture I actually wanted, and then I printed all the text on 1 more page. I do get that it's good to have pictures in your pattern, but can we please make them separate? So, like, do a picture in the title page, which you never need to print, and then, I don't know, do an appendix with the pictures, and then refer to the appendix if the pictures show anything that's relevant, and just keep the text to itself to make it better to print. I do not want to waste ink on pictures that won't look well printed anyway, and that I do not need to construct my garment. So yeah, pattern rant over. Then, sizing. One thing first. While I do understand the whole size inclusivity debate that's happening, and I do agree, I also agree that not all designers can provide every size, and every size needs to be modified to suit your own shape. Because even if the pattern comes in a ton of sizes, you can still be in between just because you have different proportions. I'm used to that. I'm used to modifying patterns a lot. What I do not like, however, is when just separate parts of a pattern do not work together. Which in my opinion I did in this one, but also this one has very large steps in between sizes. And you know, I usually like to knit my garments at around about 0 ease. I do not like too much ease. I will never go over 5 centimeters around my bust, just because my bust is quite large relative to my waist, and anything that's oversized at my bust sits like a tent further down. So I go for 0 ease at the bust, and that will still give me some positive ease at the waist. In this case, I had the choice between 2 sizes, of which one would have been negative ease at the bust, and the next one up would have been 10 centimeters of positive ease. But still, for the larger one, the sleeves would have been too tight up here. So what I did was I took 8 stitches from the body, which then left me with slightly under 5 centimeters of positive ease for the bust, which is something I can do for a cozy oversized sweater, which this one was supposed to be anyway. And I put 4 of these stitches I took out of the body into each of the sleeves. So for the sleeves I went up 4 stitches each, and I went down 8 stitches for the body. So I kept the stitch count of that one larger size, which would have given me 10 centimeters positive ease in the bust, but still negative ease in the upper arms, which just isn't the style of sweater I like to wear. So I just redistributed some of the stitches to get kind of a relaxed, slightly oversized fit in the whole garment, instead of having a giant body and then 2 tight sleeves, which worked out really well. And then you can still see in the sleeve there's not much tapering going on. The stitch count is not very different between the cuff and the upper arm. And I put 4 more stitches up here, which is 2 more increase rounds if you increase 2 stitches per increase round. And then I went down, I'm not sure, 6 stitches for the cuff, because it was, I cast on the number it called for, and knit I think 3 rounds of ribbing, and just thought it's so wide I would not like to wear it. So therefore I went down in stitch count for the cuff, and then just increased more rapidly to get to the final stitch count, which overall worked out. It's still quite a wide cuff for my taste. You can see on this one I'm wearing, I do like a rather tight cuff on my sweaters, but it suits the whole fit of the garment, so that's fine. Another thing I added is just slight waist shaping. As you can see, there is a slight curve going on. The pattern does not come with waist shaping, but I just prefer it even in an oversized garment. I think it gives, on my body type, it gives me a more flattering fit. I just think it fits me better if I do add some waist shaping, so that's what I do by default. It's not a hard thing to do. So I just added 3 decrease rounds, I think, no, 4 decrease rounds from the hips to the waist, and then increased out those stitches again to the bust, as you do. Just some basic shaping to give, to just slightly emphasize my waist. Then the yoke. So I did knit quite far before I even started the color work. I just measured my row gauge on the stockinette I had done before, and then calculated how deep I wanted the yoke and how many rounds I had to knit before starting the color work, based on how many rounds I would knit then after I started the chart, which I think it's a yoke depth of 22 centimeters, which is pretty much exactly what I would like. So I don't know, yeah, almost. But my hand span is about 20 centimeters, so it's 22 to 23 below the ribbing, which is just what I like. Then the chart. I changed, the one thing I did not change but would have liked to change afterwards, and I was thinking in that moment that I should have changed it, is, can you see those little bubbles here? I'm not sure how well they come out on camera, but those little bubbles are center double decreases, which in this heavy yarn on such thick needles is not something I would recommend. I'd much rather, what I should have done is just made it into a SSK knit 1, knit 2 together, so there was 1 stitch in between the 2 decreases. But yeah, when I saw that I was really dissatisfied with how it looked, I pretty much had finished the whole yoke, and there just was no way I was ripping back all that work. And this sweater has not been blocked yet, just because it's too cold in the attic where I dry our clothes, and we cannot dry anything in the flat just because it's too humid in here anyway. So this will just have to be blocked when it warms up again, because I cannot get such a heavy wool sweater dry at the moment. So I will block it when it's warmer again, and maybe those little bubbly decreases will go away. And then another decrease row slightly later or earlier, I don't know, there was another decrease row where the decreases were not actually centered around the tree motif, so I just moved 1 decrease 1 stitch over to have them symmetrical and centered on the tree. And then another thing, you can see here is a very pointy edge from the black into the white, so where the background changes. And when the background changes from white to red, in my version it's still quite pointy, in the pattern it isn't. In the pattern this point is not pointy but is more flat, so there's 1 stitch cut off. When I first looked at the chart, I was convinced it was an error in the chart, so I went to the pattern page, but it was that way in the sample, and I just didn't like it. I wanted them both to be pointy, to be stacked on top of each other, kind of offset, but to have those color changes or background color changes behave in the same way. I just wanted to have that instead of having a flat color change or background here and then a pointy one down here, so I just made the top one pointy. What I also did not do, the pattern called for some kind of strange noise in here, and I don't know where it's coming from. The pattern called for short rows below the yoke on the back, so here, kind of further down here. I did not do those just because I cannot be bothered to purl such long rows. I just don't like it. I did do the short rows on the back, but I think I did one set fewer than the pattern called for, so it's only slightly raised. And it's quite a wide open neckline anyway. When I first tried it on, I wasn't really happy with it. It's slightly wider and more open than I usually like to wear, but it's alright. When you wear such a heavy, warm, cozy, oversized sweater, you will wear a shawl anyway, so it's fine. But I could have gotten away with just decreasing further down and having fewer stitches for the neckline. I'm not going back to fix it. I am not. But yeah, I think that's all the modifications I made. I was going to put the sleeves further back, so have fewer stitches further back than for the front, but I just totally forgot when I was doing it, and then I was 15 rows into the yoke, and I do not rip back such things. It's not that important for the fit, especially in an oversized garment, so I just stuck to it and went with it. It fits well, I do like it. You may have seen a picture on Instagram of me wearing it actually, because I did, for a change, have a photographer. And yeah, I'm really quite happy with how it turned out, so there it is. What else? I don't think there's too much more to say. I obviously have a lot of yarn left over from white and the red, and also I have I used up pretty much exactly four of the 5 skeins of the black I had. So I have 1 full skein of black and most of both contrast colors left over. So what I have decided to do in some imaginary future is to knit myself a pair of matching leg warmers. I just stick with a chart without doing any decreases, so all 3 the same size, and then knit the whole chart top down from red to black, and then just continue down in black and decrease for my thighs, or ankles rather, so it doesn't sit too wide and open over the shoes. But yeah, I will do some matching leg warmers from the leftovers, and until then I have a warm, cozy, lovely sweater which I really like, despite all the things I have to say about the pattern and all the things that change. But that's how you make yourself garments that you actually love. It's by changing patterns. And also this pattern was gifted to me by the very generous Nikki of the Tea and Possibilities podcast, which you all should check out, and I was a lucky winner of one of her giveaways, which was for a pattern of my choice, and I had the yarn already and I knew I wanted to knit it, so that's the pattern I asked for. So thank you, Nikki, in case you ever watch my podcast, which I doubt you do, but if you do, thank you very much. And yeah, that's Skógafjall. I've already folded it, so I can now just put it away, edit the podcast. Not that I do have any much editing, but I have to put together all the small clips my camera can do. And then I can finally go and watch Vlogmas for the rest of the day. Sounds like a perfect plan, and I'm so up to it. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and by the way, because I always forget to mention it, my name is Anna. You can find me as Caledoniana on Instagram. You can find me as Obsti on Ravelry, and you can find my designs on Ravelry as well. And all of them are free so far. So I will link to all those places in the description box below the video, and please, sorry. I'm sitting on a metal chair wearing a heavy metal ring. Those two should not meet. Yeah. As always, if you have anything you would like to ask about my project, if you have any further input, anything you would like me to talk about, would like to talk to me about, I would love to hear from you in the comments on Instagram, on Ravelry, wherever you like, wherever you are. And until then, thank you so much for watching. I may have to skip next week, I'm not sure, because socializing, plans, stuff. But I will be back with another episode very soon. I'm currently knitting on a Christmas gift for a friend, which is another sweater which I would like to share in the podcast before I gift it to said friend. So I will be back as soon as I can. And until then, thank you for watching, and I would love to hear from you. Bye!